Hi guys, thanks for joining us for some more Real Talk Dog Talk. I'm Tori.
And I'm Barb. We have a couple corrections to make. I do stand corrected in the statement that I made in our first podcast that dog people are not techie people. What I really should have said is that we, as dog people, are not tech savvy. So I'm not generalizing with everybody, but we definitely know our limits on the technology.
We're working on it.
Yeah.
That brings us to our second correction. The email that we had on our first podcast was incorrect. I misspoke, which again goes into the lack of technical skills here. Our correct email is realtalkdogtalk@yahoo.com.
So despite our errors with our emails, we had 2 emails out there, and a few of you have been actually sending in to the correct one. And the topic we came upon today is walking your dog on a leash. Sometimes we need to look at what we really expect from our dogs as far as walking on a leash. Do you want them to walk with you and heel, stop when you stop, sit down when you stop, or are you doing more of a fun exploring kind of walk where they are maybe longer line where they can smell new smells, see different animals, birds? It kind of depends on what you're looking for as far as teaching a dog to walk on a lead.
For me, with having a kid and, a small little family, it's nice to have, we're a little bit less heel and more exploring as long as they're not crazy.
So what you're saying is you don't want the dog dragging you and your son down the road.
That's the main thing.
That's your focus.
Yes.
Especially when they weigh 140 pounds.
Yes.
Right.
That'll make a rough walk for everybody.
No, that is for sure. And actually, I have had dogs that are just powerhouses, and they take you on a walk. The one thing that I think is, first and foremost is patience. I mean, anytime you're working with a dog, if you're short with them or, you're putting off a real negative or
frustrated
energy, they aren't going to respond well at all.
They don't respond well to loud, like when you yell at them and things like that. It seems to set them back a little bit.
It almost takes them to where they are almost reverting. I mean, I always say that, these Cane Corsos do not respond well to people being angry with them. And that is very true of them, but also other breeds as well. So a positive, slow, steady training is really crucial, and it builds confidence as well as it makes them trust you even more. And it always builds a bond. I guess if you were Tori, you would have a talk with them about it.
Well, we would discuss it and go over the plan.
Right.
And, go from there. But...
And then what do they do?
Well, they don't.
Okay. So what I'm thinking is that actually Tori's dogs just love her very, very much, and they are probably fairly entertained by her discussions.
I love them. They love me. That's the crux of our relationship.
Excellent.
Yes.
Excellent.
Yes. So
good bonding skills, Tori.
Yeah. Yes.
So this week, actually I should say last week we had mentioned that through Primo Corso Kennels we had one of our young dogs, a little bit older puppy, he's about 6 months old, that is going to be going to his forever home. And I actually worked with him this entire week on his leash training. And his name is Barrett. So I thought we would talk about him a little bit and use him as a kind of an example of the different things that we can do with the lead training. The one thing we noticed about Barrett is that he is very afraid of the leash. And even though that we want, a strong and powerful dog to know that they aren't the one in control, I found that I really had to let Barrett know that I would go with him on walks. And that's mostly just to get him acclimated to having a collar on and a leash.
And building the confidence, too, knowing that he can walk around and he is not in charge, but okay.
He's okay.
He's okay.
Yep, exactly. And, there's so many things that can cause a dog to be afraid of a leash. And, I think for me, my work schedule is so hectic that I just, on this particular dog, didn't expect having him as long. And I didn't start young enough as far as his leash work. So that sometimes you have to actually look at the dog and not really, they aren't cookie cutter, so you have to really think outside the box for some of them. Some just do everything they're supposed to as you're walking them. You're using the treats, they're getting the whole thing. They just want to hang out with you. Barrett, not so much. I mean, he's been living at my house. He has had no collar on. He has free run of the yard, and he's just out there having a blast, running through the snow and the mud and finding every chunk of wood he can to run around with. So to put any kind of limit on him really kind of threw him for a loop. So Tori and I sat down, we were talking about it, and I just had to think about how to differently approach him with using a leash. So I think sometimes you have to look at different methods and different. So I think you just have to remember that what works for one dog may not work for another, which is actually why we started this podcast, so that we can have people sending in emails and we can respond to that. And it's just about sharing a bunch of ideas and maybe give you some ideas on what makes your situation better.
Or learn some ideas that we haven't thought of before, and,
Yeah, we're actually looking for ideas as well. I do live out in the country on a minimum maintenance road, so when I put a leash and a collar on Barrett, it was just an absolute change, and he was no longer totally free. And that is where his problem was at, which we've been working with him for a week and gone through about a pound of chicken. And he is doing much better. One thing we can talk about is why dogs might be afraid of the leash or going on a walk. I think a couple that I think of is a lack of trust or a fear of a new environment, which actually, when you take a dog that's been out in a little farm that maybe a car goes by one time a week and then bring it into town, however big or small that town might be, there is a lot of stimulation in that new environment.
Even just people walking down the street, talking outside across the road, even small things like that we might not hear or notice. Those dogs are they're going to hear it and be affected by it, and depending on the dog.
Right, and actually if there was someone walking down my road, it'd be sketchy.
Yeah.
Because there's no one out there.
No, they should be barking at that, okay?
Yeah, that's their job.
Yes.
But also then exposing them to the leash training too late also can just cause the anxiety, which is where Barrett is. So not socializing him is also something that can cause a fear of leashes or going for walks, because you bring them into town from an area where the only traffic you have are deer to where people are honking, walking,
standing outside, chatting.
right. I mean, it's like, holy cow, they don't even know what to think of it. It's just a lot of stimulation. Some of the things that you can do to, work with a dog that is fearful. When you introduce them to the leash, sometimes they just need to know that it isn't going to hurt them and it needs to be in their general vicinity. After a while, maybe clip it on them. Barrett, he did not want it clipped on. That is actually the thing he doesn't like now, is to have his leash clipped on. But what I really am focusing on is using a treat, not something, not some hard treat, but something high value like chicken nuggets, anything like that. I think they have beef jerky for dogs too. I actually just buy chicken bits and bake it, and then that's what I use for my dog treats. But if they associate the leash getting clipped on with getting a treat, that's great. For them, they're thinking, ooh, this is awesome, I like that. And then not only that, you can't rush them, which I think when I'm on a timeline training a dog, I know they have to be going to a new home at some point. When I have that deadline, I find myself pushing that dog to, learn it. And that doesn't work.
Well, and sometimes it's hard not to rush when
Right.
you know there is a timeline. And
Right.
it's easy to put that at the back of your mind. Just be like, you're smart, just learn it.
Right. And that is what's in your head, and people are wanting to have their dogs, delivered in good shape, and also, of course, that is something you really cannot rush a dog. One thing you have to look at too when you're thinking outside the box for how to handle a dog, how to get them going on the training, is for some dogs a collar will work. For other dogs it doesn't, so you might have to use a harness. One thing I use is a martingale collar that they can't back out of, because my dogs are coming from the country to town, so I don't want them to get loose and run.
And I have Jim, my Shiba Inu. He came from the country, and he was not really used to leashes. And I found that a harness actually worked best for him, not because it just took the leash from being in front of him to behind him, where it wasn't right in front of him, which to most dogs that's not a big deal. They could care less. For him, that was a big deal. So I had to, find a different piece of equipment.
So basically you just had to rethink it, and that's what we're talking about too, is there is no right way. I mean, you have to kind of feel out how the dog wants to be handled and how confident they are, how quickly they learn, not necessarily learn a new thing, but become comfortable with it so that they are confident. Because I believe that dogs learn things quite a bit faster than we realize. And it's more about getting them comfortable and confident. So that's why you need to try different things, like Tori using the harness on Jim opposed to a collar. I guess if I think about that, if I had one on me, I would rather not have my neck yanked around. Mm-hmm. So, a harness makes sense to me. But we do always think about dogs that might pull back. There's martingale collars, and then there's also collars that I guess I'm not 100% sure what they're called. They're a 1.5 inch nylon collar that actually cinches like a choke chain, but it's not as harsh because of the fact that it's a wider band. We do not promote prong collars or choke chains. They just are not something that I think are really
necessary.
Well, I don't know if I'd say necessary, but I would definitely say they're harsh.
They are. I agree.
And really, the thing is a lot of people, when they start thinking about training their dog, it's usually when they're 8 months, 9 months old. And the time to teach a dog to walk with you on a leash is when they're very small. Because at that point, they're more compliant. They aren't developing their shy habits. And it's just a lot easier to start with a 20, 30 pound dog than a 100-pound dog, because I can stop a 20-pound dog way easier than a big anything. So that is a little bit of a problem, that people are waiting too late to start working with the leash training.
And that can be hard to tell them no and really put your foot down with the rules when they're so cute and you just want to snuggle them. But if you think about the effects that it's having down the road, you don't want a 140-pound dog jumping on you and doing all these other things that you could have just prevented by putting down a few rules when they were younger.
So, again, some of the equipment you use, of course, you're going to want to pick the collar or the harness that fits the dog's personality and tolerance the best. And leashes, the thing is if you really want them to heel and walk with you, at your side and stop and be right with you when you're walking them, you're going to want a shorter leash, anything from like a 4-foot to maybe a 7-foot lead. What I do use for dogs that are afraid is a long line, which is about 15 feet long. And basically what that does is you can clip onto your dog and still allow them the freedom without just letting them go. And that has worked really effectively with Barrett. And as he's out there walking around acting like I should not have put him on a lead, I'm slowly working him closer and closer, using a little bit of chicken for bait. And, pretty soon he's walking along with me. And when I do this with a dog that is fearful, I never do it in an area that they can get loose and run. It's always in a fenced, enclosed area. So that's something to think about, too.
Don't want to lose your dog just because you didn't do it in the right spot.
Right. It has to be a controlled area. And then the last, and in my opinion, the most important tool is
treats.
Absolutely treats, and lots of them. Some people don't like using treats. They think they're bribing the dog, or possibly just the dog is going to only listen because of getting the food. That is not necessarily true. If you kind of give it to them, you can start off steady giving them the treat and then make it more intermittent with maybe a toy, and then little at a time get rid of the toy, get rid of the treats, and pretty soon they're listening to you. So treats, plan on buying a lot of chicken. One of the dogs that I have for a stud dog is Yazzie, and he is a blue, or some people call him a gray Cane Corso, and he's a dog that I started working with when he was 7 or 8 weeks old on leash work, and he is a dog that I can actually take to a park where there's like a birthday function or something along that line without a leash on, and he will stay with me. And I guess the reason I bring him up is because when I got him, I started working with him really young, and immediately went with a high value treats, and just in my own driveway. I didn't even take him into town or anything else like that. I just kept him at home, started working with him, and he just developed a trust and a bond with me. And when you start younger, I think you get much easier results from leash work.
Are you able to walk around with him off leash, or do you have to have a leash on him all the time?
I do. I can walk him without a leash because he will do that. But honestly, with this breed of dogs, A lot of people are afraid of them and real nervous. So for the folks around and their peace of mind, I'd keep him on a leash. He's just a little intimidating looking, I guess. I don't think so. I think he's cute as a button.
It's a big mush ball.
Yeah, he is. But Yazzie is a dog that is a really great example of how easy it is to teach him at a younger age. And then at 140 pounds, he just thinks he has to listen to me because why? I don't know. He doesn't know.
No questions about it.
Right. It's just the way he was taught. So certainly any dog, any age can be taught to walk on a leash, but it's just so much easier to start younger.
You wouldn't want him pulling you across the yard or down the road, yeah.
Yes, that's a very good point. If I had to battle a dog, I would rather battle an 8-week-old dog than a full-grown Cane Corso. But yeah, so, it's just an example of why it's best to start younger than it is to wait. I know Barrett, my goodness, he is about 76 pounds, I think. I took him in for shots yesterday, and Tori helped me get the three young dogs in for shots, and I will tell you what, when Barrett puts on the brakes, he is one strong little puppy.
I swear he adds 10 pounds to himself somehow.
Yeah, it's like he just puts his weight down.
He's not going anywhere.
So it was pretty entertaining getting him into the vet because he wasn't real fond of all the people and the other dogs, and it was quite a trip for him. But he did okay. He did okay. We had chicken in the pockets and we were ready for it. So
it was good exposure
for him and us.
Yes, good practice for everybody involved.
Yep. So. Some dogs, they get older like that and they're so strong, it just makes the task of training them a lot more. And it should actually be a fun thing. It shouldn't be a task. So that's when it's fun to take your puppy out. And I know a lot of people are concerned about exposing them to other dogs or germs to where they might end up sick. And you don't have to start out in public. You can start right on your own property.
Well, and you're always going to have to take them to the vet and, things like that. So you'll have to, they need that training no matter where you live or situation you've got that dog in. You're always going to want to be able to have them on a leash or be able to take them in the car at some point.
Right. Yeah, actually, I used to know a woman down in Iowa who had, I think they were Great Pyrenees Mastiff mix. She had 2 of them, and she could never get them in the car to go to the vet. And they were, I don't know exactly, I saw them a few times, and they had to be up around 200 pounds. They were huge dogs. So they really did not get regular vet care because she just couldn't get them into the car. So that's just one other reason to teach them, it's okay to be on a leash, it's okay to get in the car, it's okay to walk around people, and there's nothing bad going to happen. And of course you're with them, so that should help with the confidence too.
Well, and it's not fair to have a dog not being taken care of just because you weren't able to train it when it was younger or chose not to or
you work too much.
There's a lot of different reasons why it doesn't get done, and no blame. It's just something that should be a priority.
It should, and it's not like we aren't really looking to offend, but I think you need to call it like you see it. And the fact is that, there is a good handful of people that are not as focused on their puppies because they are cute, and they would never do anything wrong, and then they end up with bigger problems down the road. So, it's just something you have to be realistic about and ask yourself, are you applying yourself to what that puppy's going to need? And I have I have different levels of dogs that are trained in certain capacities. And I think with everything I know, the younger you start, the better.
And that's not saying that other dogs can't be trained. It just means that there's going to be extra effort. It's going to take a little more time building that confidence and that bond. A lot more high value treats, which harder on the pocketbook, easier on the training.
Well, and it's true, people get rescue dogs. Some are from unhealthy situations and some are just to be rehomed. But it actually is not beyond help if an older dog needs to be taught that. But ultimately, you want the dog to be confident, because if they're confident, they're going to be happy. And that just is a win-win situation.
Everybody's happy.
Yeah, they are. I think we have gone over a few of the things that we've gotten emails about, and if there are any further questions or suggestions, we like to hear other people's ideas too, so that's great to hear. Our email is realtalkdogtalk@yahoo.com.
We'll be checking into our emails for any questions and comments, and looking forward to see you next time.
Happy training!